I've talked to literally hundreds of police officers in the last couple of months. No one was happy with what they saw on TV with the Chauvin use of force. Everybody disagreed with that. What happened in Brooklyn Center was just a terrible tragedy for the Wright family as well as for that officer's family. And everybody's wondering how could such a mistake have been made, mistaking her taser for a gun. And obviously reforms are on the way, whether law enforcement likes it or not. In some cases, it may be welcomed. And we'll wait to see what legislation is being passed. But currently, many states are passing legislation to push police reform. And I think some of it may be beneficial. Others may be not as beneficial.
Well, let me get, we want to talk about reform in just a moment, but we have a mugshot of Kim Potter up on our screen, and she's the officer who shot and killed Daunte Wright, my apologies. And as you mentioned, she says she meant to take out her taser, but took out her gun instead. Once again, you are a former police officer. How, I mean, is this something that can happen easily, mistaking your taser and your gun if you're a seasoned, experienced, well-trained police officer?
It should not happen. When tasers first came out and officers had them on the same side, there were instances where mistakes were made, but that was many, many years ago. And since then, the training, the placement of the taser versus your handgun, the color of the taser, the training that officers go through, it's a shame that that mistake should not have been made.
What about reform? There certainly seems to be hope, momentum, if you will. I don't know if hope is really enough at this point. What would you like to see in terms of legislation in Congress that would perhaps help put an end to this nightmare that brown and black communities in this country are enduring, it seems, on a daily basis?
Well, I'm concerned about some of the legislation that's passing. Obviously, part of what people thought was reformed engaged in what they call defunding, and unfortunately that has not worked. We have seen crime spike in those cities where defunding was the call for action, and I believe in early March, a poll from USA Today showed that 1 out of 5 people did not support defund the police. We're also hearing cries for the elimination of qualified immunity, and that concerns me because qualified immunity is a defense not just for law enforcement, but for all public officials. Whether you're a judge, although you're probably going to get absolute immunity as a judge, but a deputy district attorney, a city clerk, any elected position is entitled to qualified immunity. And indeed, I believe the first Supreme Court case that dealt with qualified immunity was with a social worker. So I would hate to eliminate a defense that is available to everybody. I'm also concerned that if states are successful in eliminating qualified immunity, we are not going to see law enforcement continue in the sense that we're not going to be able to recruit the candidates that we want. Why would they want to go work for an agency or in a state that has eliminated qualified immunity as a defense? I think we're going to have a very hard time not only retaining officers, which I see now. I see many officers leaving before their retirement period has come up, or they're leaving to go to other areas.
Okay, Eugene, let me interrupt you because I want to talk about the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, which has already passed the House, faces an uncertain future in the Senate. That would end certain police techniques, including chokeholds. Among other things, it would also improve police training. What are your thoughts on that, and do you think it has a chance to pass in the Senate?
Well, there is obviously going to be a fight in the Senate, and one of those bills is qualified immunity. The other is raising the standard of the use of force. Right now, all police departments operate on Graham versus Connor, which was a 1989 United States Supreme Court that talked about force must be objectively reasonable based upon what another officer would have done in same or similar circumstances. There is talk about making that more close to a necessary standard, which is problematic because I don't think any law enforcement officer can meet a necessary standard. That is almost the perfect standard, and that's just unobtainable in society. So I'd hate to see Graham versus Connor eliminated, or the reasonable objectiveness standard by which law enforcement officers are trained now. There are some issues regarding no-knock warrants. I'm not a big fan of no-knock warrants absent truly exigent circumstances, but we have seen some high-profile cases where no-knock warrants were believed to be involved, resulting in serious tragedy. So I'm not as concerned about that. I do believe police officers should be giving knock notice when they're serving high-risk warrants to give everybody an opportunity to surrender or make their intent known. So I'm all in favor of that. And if we can provide more training on bias, implicit bias to law enforcement, again, I'm in favor of that as well.